The medical bay of the starship Silver Dawn was silent except for the soft hum of machines and the steady rhythm of artificial life support systems. In the middle of the room, lying on a clean white bed, was a human explorer, Lieutenant Mark Reynolds. His arm was bandaged, his uniform torn from a recent scouting mission on a dangerous jungle world. Beside him, standing with her 3 thin legs and long delicate fingers, was Saren, an alien medical intern from Tau Cygni Prime. Saren had trained for years to work with different species. She had read every manual, watched every holo, and practiced on a dozen alien models. But humans were special. The medical files described them as emotionally unpredictable and biologically complicated. Still, she liked working with them. Humans smiled more than most species, and they told jokes that confused but fascinated her. She adjusted her translator collar, lifted a medical scanner, and began a standard checkup. Mark grinned lazily. "Don't worry, Doc. I'm tougher than I look," he said. Saren tilted her head, unsure whether that was a medical fact or another human joke. She tapped the scanner against his chest, watched the blue lines dance across the screen, and nodded when his heart rate came back strong. Then she checked his breathing, muscles, blood pressure, all within normal limits. So far everything was calm, but the moment she moved the scanner lower, something unexpected happened. The machine suddenly emitted a loud ping and flashed a red warning light. The display pulsed rapidly, showing a bright red cluster of heat between the human's legs. "Localized inflammation detected," the scanner announced in its cold, robotic voice. Saren froze. Her 3 eyes widened and her antennae stiffened. Her long, transparent fingers gripped the scanner tightly. According to the medical manual, inflammation in that area could mean severe injury or the start of organ failure. Her mind raced through a list of procedures. She hadn't trained for this in a live situation before. "Human Reynolds," she said, trying to stay calm. "There is a problem," Mark blinked. "A problem? What kind of problem?" She showed him the screen. "There is an alarming increase of blood flow and tissue activity in your lower body. I have not encountered this pattern before." For a second, Mark didn't speak. Then a small, awkward smile crept across his face. Oh no," he whispered under his breath. He knew exactly what the machine had detected, and it was definitely not a medical emergency. Saren misread his expression. "Are you in pain?" she asked quickly, leaning closer, her voice rising. "Is it spreading?" Mark covered his face with his hands. "No, it's, not spreading. It's fine. It does not appear fine," she replied, already pulling open a cabinet to grab medical instruments. "This may be a critical vascular reaction. I will apply a pressure coolant." Wait. Mark tried to sit up, but the bed restraints gently pushed him back down. "It's not what you think." Saren tilted her head again, confused. "Then what is it?" Mark opened his mouth, then closed it. How could he explain this to an alien who had never even heard of, well, that kind of thing? He sighed. "This isn't an emergency, it's something humans sometimes do. By accident." The alien blinked all 3 eyes. Accident? She thought of infection, trauma, or parasites. Her mind grew more frantic. She activated the ship's medical AI for confirmation. But the AI, built by humans but programmed for standard emergencies, didn't help much. Human physiology. Lower body blood pressure variation detected, non-critical. Saren frowned. Non-critical? How can this be non-critical? "The readings are increasing," Mark groaned. "Yeah, that's kind of the problem." The rising confusion, Saren moved to the wall console and sent an urgent message to the senior medic on duty. Within minutes, Dr. Callith, a tall reptilian alien with green scales and a deep voice, entered the bay. He looked at the scanner, then at Mark, then back at the scanner. His tail flicked nervously. "What did you do to the human?" he asked in their native tongue, which the translator rendered into English. "I followed the manual," Saren insisted. "Heart rate, lungs, stomach, and then this happened." Callith hissed softly, a sound of irritation or maybe confusion. "I have treated humans before. I have never seen this reaction." Mark tried to cover his face again. "Oh my God," he muttered. "This is so embarrassing." The reptilian doctor leaned closer to the scanner and squinted. "Temperature spike. Blood flow surge. No sign of external wound. No internal rupture." "Then why?" Saren, eager to be helpful, began listing possible conditions. Perhaps a hidden parasite? A vascular infection? Sudden alien toxin? Callith shook his head slowly. Or perhaps... He tapped the screen and frowned. Perhaps it is something they are not telling us. Saren gasped softly. Human Reynolds, are you hiding an illness? Mark sat up straight. No, no illness. Look, you're misunderstanding everything. This isn't dangerous. It's just a natural thing. Saren blinked again, clearly not understanding. Panic spreads. The senior medic, determined to be cautious, ordered a level 2 alert. A soft red light began flashing in the medical bay. Automated messages went through the ship's intercom. Medical anomaly detected. Human physiology alert. Please clear corridors near Medbay 3. Within minutes, curious crew members from different species began peeking in through the glass wall. Some whispered in their native languages. A tall, bird-like engineer tilted his head and said, "Is he dying?" Mark waved weakly. "No, not dying, just existing." Saren was frantically preparing a hypospray of coolant serum, convinced she was saving a life. "Human Reynolds, do not panic," she said. "I will bring down the inflammation." "Please don't," Mark begged. "Why not?" "This is for your safety. It's not dangerous." Kaleth raised a scaly brow. "Then what is it?" Mark sighed and leaned back on the bed. "It's a reaction. Sometimes when humans feel, embarrassed, nervous, or other things, their bodies react in ways that are not dangerous." Saren stared at him. "You mean your body does this voluntarily?" "No," Mark said quickly. "Not voluntarily. It just happens. It's biology." The crowd outside the glass began to laugh in their strange, echoing ways. A small alien technician even clapped his hands, clearly entertained. The human explanation, Saren stepped closer, still unsure. She had read many human medical files but never encountered this exact situation. It wasn't in the emergency section. It wasn't in the disease section either. "This is normal?" she asked slowly. "For humans?" "Yeah," Mark replied. "It's awkward, but it's normal. No emergency. No danger." Kaleth rubbed his chin. "Fascinating. I've never seen another species react like this. Their circulatory system must be very adaptive. Or very weird," Saren whispered under her breath, forgetting the translator would still pick it up. Mark chuckled. "Yeah, weird. Welcome to humanity." Saren lowered the scanner slowly, still embarrassed at having almost declared a medical emergency over something natural. She deactivated the alert, and the red light faded. The curious crew outside groaned in disappointment as the show ended and returned to their duties. Kaleth, ever the professional, tapped a note into his data pad. "New xenobiology update. Spontaneous lower body blood pressure surge in humans. Not life-threatening. Cultural sensitivity required." Mark laughed out loud at the phrasing. "Please don't make that my legacy." Saren flushed with embarrassment, or at least the alien equivalent. "I apologize for alarming the ship. I thought you were in danger." Mark smiled warmly. "Hey, no harm done. Honestly, I'd panic too if I didn't know what was going on." A lesson learned. When the room finally quieted down again, Saren cleaned up the unused medical tools. She was still feeling a little foolish. Her training had taught her to always be cautious, but today she learned another important lesson. Sometimes caution and misunderstanding mix into chaos. She looked at the human, who seemed far too relaxed for someone who'd just set off a medical alert. "Humans," she muttered softly. Mark grinned. "Yeah, we're a handful. Why does your body behave like this?" she asked, genuinely curious now. Mark shrugged. "That's just how we are. It's a part of being human. We react to emotions, sometimes without meaning to. You'll get used to it." Saren tilted her head thoughtfully. "Your species is unpredictable." "Exactly," Mark said with a wink. "And that's why we keep things interesting." The alien smiled awkwardly. This was not the kind of medical emergency she had expected on her first day alone in the bay, but she couldn't deny. Humans made her job anything but boring. The next morning, the starship Silver Dawn floated through deep space like a shining silver arrow. It was quiet, except for the usual sounds of the engines and the distant chatter of crew members. But one particular story was spreading faster than the ship's communication beams. Everyone on board had heard about the human incident in Medbay 3. Some crew members were whispering. Some were laughing. And a few were even creating new funny nicknames for Lieutenant Mark Reynolds. To them, it was just another strange human thing. But to Saren, the alien intern, it was a lesson she would never forget. She walked down the hallway with her medical scanner in hand. Her three eyes darted from one corner to another as she heard two insectoid crew members giggling. One of them whispered something about exploding humans, and both burst into high-pitched laughter. Sarin lowered her antennae in embarrassment. She wanted to hide inside a wall panel. It had been her alert after all. Her mistake. Meanwhile, in the mess hall, Mark sat with a tray of alien-looking food, pretending not to notice the stares. His friend, a tall, broad-shouldered human named Lucas, dropped his own tray beside him with a loud clank. "Buddy," Lucas said with a grin, "you've made history." Mark groaned. "Please don't start." "Too late," Lucas continued. "They're calling it the Great Inflammation Event. Someone's already making hollow memes." Mark buried his face in his hands. "This ship is worse than a high school." An unwanted reputation, Sarin walked into the mess hall a few minutes later, holding a data tablet against her chest. She hoped to grab a drink quickly and escape unnoticed, but as soon as she stepped inside, the chatter dropped for a moment. Every alien eye seemed to land on her. Then soft snickering followed. Her face, and/or the alien version of a face, turned a darker shade of green. She hurried toward the drink dispenser. Lucas leaned toward Mark. "Your doctor's here." Mark sighed. "Yeah, she probably hates me now." "You mean the alien who thought you were dying?" "No, she's just embarrassed." Mark turned in his seat and called gently, "Hey, Sarin." She froze like a startled deer, then slowly turned. "Human Reynolds." "You can call me Mark," he said, trying to smile. She hesitated, then walked toward their table with slow steps. "I apologize for yesterday," she said softly, her translator collar making her voice sound formal and clear. "I caused unnecessary alarm." Mark shook his head. "It's not your fault. You were just doing your job," Lucas smirked. "A very thorough job." Sarin gave Lucas a blank alien stare that made him cough and look away. "I have read more human medical files since last night," she said. "I understand now it is a normal biological response. But the way the crew reacted..." She paused, clearly uncomfortable. "I have never been the center of so much attention." Mark laughed gently. "Welcome to human drama." The official meeting later that day, the senior medic Dr. Kaleth called both Sarin and Mark to the medical office. The room smelled faintly of sterilized air and soft light reflected off the metal walls. Kaleth sat behind a sleek black desk, tapping his claws against a data pad. "Sit," he said. Mark sat casually. Sarin sat like a student about to be punished. Kaleth cleared his throat. "I have spoken to the captain. The incident yesterday caused confusion across 5 departments. The engineering team thought there was a chemical leak. The security team thought a parasite outbreak had begun. And the cooks in the mess hall thought a human exploded." Mark winced. "Yeah, sorry about that." "This is not your fault," Kaleth said, looking at Mark. Then he turned to Sarin. "And not entirely yours either. The manuals did not explain this. Human reaction very clearly." Sarin straightened her back a little. "Then what happens now?" Kaleth tapped the screen again. "The captain has decided that if humans are to work with multiple alien species, we need a new cultural and biological awareness program. And you, Sarin, will help make it." Sarin blinked all 3 eyes. "Me? You caused the alert?" Kaleth said with a hint of amusement. "Now you will turn it into something useful." Mark almost laughed out loud. "So she's going to teach everyone about human biology?" Kaleth gave him a sharp look. "You will assist her." Mark's smile disappeared. "Wait, what?" The reptilian doctor folded his arms. "You were the subject of this incident. Who better to explain it than you?" Sarin covered her face with her hands. "This is worse than the alert. An awkward partnership." That evening, Sarin and Mark sat together in the empty training room, surrounded by hollow screens and medical diagrams. Sarin held a stylus and tried to build a presentation slide with great seriousness. Mark, on the other hand, leaned back in a chair, looking miserable. Sarin pointed at the hollow screen. "We must make this educational, not humorous." "Yeah," Mark muttered. "Try explaining that to Lucas." She tilted her head. "I do not understand." Never mind, they spent the next hour designing a short lesson about human biology. Sarin carefully explained things in scientific terms. She described blood flow, temperature changes, and hormonal reactions. Mark added simpler explanations. He tried to make it less embarrassing, though every word made him want to disappear into space. Sarin practiced reading her lines out loud. During emotional stress, human blood may, relocate, Mark groaned. Maybe don't say it like that, she frowned. But it is accurate. Yes, but just trust me. Say it less. Alien. After several tries, they managed to create a short presentation that wasn't too awkward. But the real test would be tomorrow, when they had to present it in front of the entire ship's crew. The rumors grow by morning. The story had grown beyond their control. Someone in the communication team had made a little animated hologram of a cartoon Mark lying on a bed, while red warning lights flashed above him. Crew members were laughing everywhere. Even the captain cracked a small smile when he walked past. Mark wanted to dig a hole in the floor and never return. Seren, however, began to feel something else. A strange, new determination. If they laughed at her, she would give them something better to laugh about. Something educational. She walked confidently toward Medbay 3. She checked the hollow screens twice, rehearsed her lines again, and reminded herself that she had survived tougher exams back on Tau Cini Prime. Mark followed behind her, shoulders slouched. Why do I have to be part of this? Because you are the human, she said simply. The presentation begins. The training hall was packed. Humans, insectoids, reptilians, avians, and a few small glowing creatures from the gas giant colonies all filled the seats. The captain sat in the front row trying to keep a straight face. Saren stood at the podium. Mark stood awkwardly beside her. The hollow screen behind them displayed the title, Human Biology, Understanding Unexpected Reactions. A wave of soft laughter rolled through the room. Mark rubbed his face. Saren raised her three-fingered hand. Please listen carefully, she began in her clear, formal translator voice. Yesterday, a medical scanner detected what it believed was an emergency condition in Lieutenant Mark Reynolds. But it was not an emergency. It was a normal part of human biology. The crowd leaned in. Saren continued, pointing at a diagram of the human body. When humans feel certain emotions, fear, embarrassment, nervousness, or sometimes other private feeling, their blood may increase in specific areas. This is not a disease. It is not an explosion. It is not a parasite. A few aliens in the back giggled. Saren ignored them. Mark stepped forward reluctantly. Basically, what she's saying is, we're weird. Don't panic when you see it. The room burst into laughter. Even the captain chuckled. Saren nodded firmly. Exactly. No need for medical alerts. No need for coolant serum. Dr. Calith, sitting near the back, gave her a small approving nod. She was doing well. A strange kind of fame. When the presentation ended, the room erupted in applause. Some genuine, some playful. But it didn't matter. The message had been delivered. Every species on board now understood a little more about human biology. And, more importantly, no one would mistake this reaction for a medical emergency again. Mark and Saren walked out of the room together. The tension that had been hanging between them was lighter now. Mark sighed. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Saren tilted her head. I did not panic. You did great, Mark admitted. I guess now everyone knows more about humans. And about me, she said dryly. Mark laughed. Yeah, you're famous, she frowned. I do not wish to be famous. Too late. Friendship in the stars later that night. The stars outside the observation deck shone like tiny diamonds against the black ocean of space. Saren stood quietly looking at them. Mark walked in and stood beside her. I have studied many species, she said softly. But humans are different. Mark raised an eyebrow. Different how? You make mistakes, she said. You make noise. You embarrass yourselves. But then you laugh. And keep going, Mark smiled. That's pretty much humanity in one sentence. She turned toward him. I do not think I will forget this incident. Neither will the crew, he said with a grin. But instead of feeling embarrassed now, Saren felt something warm in her chest. Pride, maybe. She had made a mistake, yes, but she had also learned, and so had everyone else. And as the Silver Dawn moved through the galaxy, the story of the Great Inflammation event became a running joke, but also a symbol of how different species could understand each other, one awkward moment at a time. The starship Silver Dawn continued its silent journey through deep space, its engines glowing like a trail of silver fire. For several days now, life on the ship had returned to normal. The crew worked their shifts. The captain gave orders. The engineers fixed what needed fixing, but something had changed, and everyone knew it. The Great Inflammation event had become a legend. Mark Reynolds couldn't walk down a hallway without someone giving him a grin or a little salute. Some even whispered nicknames as he passed. A few aliens greeted him with exaggerated medical scanner, just for fun. Mark pretended to be annoyed, but deep down he was amused. The awkward situation had brought the crew together in a strange, funny way. Saren, the alien intern, no longer felt like the nervous newcomer. She was still embarrassed sometimes, but the crew respected her now. She had turned a panic into a lesson, and in a ship full of different species, that meant something. She spent most of her time in the medical bay, scanning patients, learning more about alien bodies, and occasionally glancing at the scanner that had started it all. She'd even added a little sticky note in alien script that said, "Breathe before pressing the alert button." But just as everything was settling into peaceful routine, something happened that no one expected. The alarm, the ship's sirens wailed through the halls one quiet night. Red lights flashed above every door. "Alert, unknown vessel detected," the ship's AI repeated in its calm, robotic tone. Mark woke up immediately. So did Saren, who was sleeping in her small medical pod. The crew ran through the corridors like a wave of color. Reptilians hissing, insectoids buzzing, humans shouting commands. The captain's voice came through the intercom. "All crew to battle stations." Unknown ship approaching from Sector 9. Saren's 3 eyes widened. She'd trained for medical emergencies, not combat. But she ran to Medbay 3 anyway, just like she was supposed to. Mark threw on his uniform and rushed to the command deck. He'd been on enough missions to know that unknown vessel usually meant trouble. When he arrived, the view screen showed a massive black ship emerging from a swirling blue nebula. It had no lights, no signals, no welcome message. It moved silently and smoothly like a shark in deep water. "Who are they?" Mark asked. "No identification," said the captain. The ship grew closer. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the black ship sent a single pulse of energy, and the lights on Silver Dawn flickered. "Shields up," the captain ordered. The first attack. The enemy ship didn't waste time. A bright red beam of energy hit the starboard side of Silver Dawn, shaking the decks like an earthquake. Saren fell against a cabinet in the medical bay. Several alarms went off at once. Injured crew members started arriving almost immediately. Mark held onto the railing on the command deck. "They're firing without warning." The captain's voice was firm. "Return fire." The ship's defense cannons lit up. Blue streaks of energy shot toward the black vessel, but the enemy's shield shimmered and absorbed every hit. "They're too strong," one of the engineers shouted. Mark's mind raced. This wasn't some pirate raid. This was something bigger. Saren's emergency room. Meanwhile, Medbay 3 turned into a storm of activity. Saren helped lift a wounded engineer onto a bed, her hands moving quickly and carefully. Another nurse applied bandages. The medical AI listed injuries in a steady voice. Saren had never seen so many patients at once. But she didn't panic. She remembered her training, and the way she'd learned to stay calm under pressure. "Breathe," she whispered to herself. She moved from bed to bed, scanning wounds, applying patches, giving clear instructions. For the first time since she boarded Silver Dawn, she felt like she truly belonged here. Then the floor shook again. Another hit. A ceiling panel fell near the medbay entrance. Sparks flew. 2 insectoid crew members screamed as smoke filled the air. Saren grabbed an extinguisher and moved fast. "Stay calm," she shouted, her voice stronger than ever. "We can handle this." Mark's plan on the command deck, the captain slammed his fist on the console. "Our weapons can't get through. Their shields are absorbing everything." Mark leaned closer to the tactical display. He wasn't a scientist, but he was a problem solver. And humans were good at seeing things differently. "Look at the energy readings," he said. Their shield pulses at a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. The science officer, a glowing cloud-like alien, tilted toward him. And if it's rhythmic," Mark said slowly, "that means there's a weak moment between pulses. If we time our shot right, we can break through." The captain raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" "No," Mark said with a grin. "But I'm human. We make crazy guesses." The captain gave a short laugh. "Then let's make it count. Engineering! Prepare to synchronize weapons with their shield frequency." The crew moved fast. The entire ship seemed to lean forward as they prepared the next shot. Saren's brave moment. Just then, another explosion shook the lower decks. Power flickered in Medbay 3. The life support monitors went dark. Panic rippled through the injured crew. Saren looked up and saw smoke creeping through the ceiling vents. She ran to the manual power control panel and yanked it open. She wasn't trained for this, but she'd watched the engineers work before. She took a deep breath and connected 2 cables by hand. A spark burned her palm, but the lights flickered back on. The wounded crew members cheered weakly. Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. She moved quickly to stabilize the injured. She was scared, but she didn't show it. She remembered Mark's words from before. Humans keep going. She could do the same. The turning point back on the bridge. The enemy ship powered up for a massive final strike. The entire Silver Dawn vibrated. If the shot landed, it could tear the ship apart. Now or never, the captain said. Mark watched the display carefully. The enemy shield pulsed again. 1, 2, 3, fire. Mark shouted. The ship's cannons fired at the perfect moment between pulses. A brilliant blue beam hit the enemy ship dead center. This time the shield didn't hold. It cracked like glass. A wave of light burst from the impact. The enemy vessel spun off course. They're retreating, someone yelled. A cheer erupted across the deck. For a moment, the whole ship felt alive with victory. After the battle hours later, the red lights finally dimmed. The danger was gone. The enemy ship had disappeared into the nebula. The crew was tired but safe. Mark made his way to the medical bay. He pushed open the doors and saw Saren sitting on a stool, her hands covered in faint burn marks but her face steady and calm. Around her, injured crew members rested peacefully. The med bay smelled like disinfectant and warm metal. "You okay?" Mark asked. She nodded slowly. "Yes, I am tired." "But proud," he smiled. "You should be. You kept everyone alive." Saren tilted her head. "And you destroyed the enemy ship's shield." Mark laughed. "Well, technically, I guessed." She gave a rare small smile. "A good guess. A different kind of fame." The next day, the crew gathered in the main hall. The captain stood on a raised platform looking serious but proud. "We faced a dangerous enemy," he said. "We stood together. And we won. This ship survives because we work as one, human and alien alike." The crowd cheered. The captain turned to Mark and Saren. "And we owe much to these two." Lieutenant Reynolds saw what no one else did. "An intern Saren kept our crew alive through the worst." The hall filled with applause. Mark scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. Saren lowered her antennae in embarrassment, but it felt good, the warm kind of embarrassment. Then, of course, someone from the back shouted, "3 cheers for the inflammation hero." The hall erupted in laughter. Even the captain couldn't help but smile. Looking at the stars later that night, Mark and Saren stood together on the observation deck again. The stars stretched endlessly outside the glass, a river of light and darkness. "You're famous now," Mark teased. She sighed. "I do not enjoy fame." "Yeah," he said softly, "but sometimes fame finds you." They stood quietly for a while. No alarms, no panic. "A star," Saren turned to him. "Humans are strange," Mark laughed. "Yeah, but we're good at surviving," she nodded. "And laughing," Mark smiled. "That too." As the Silver Dawn continued its long journey, the story of their awkward beginning had grown into something greater. What started as confusion became a symbol of trust and teamwork, a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected moments can bring people, and aliens, closer together.